welcome to the Seasons of Singleness podcast. I am your hostess with the mostest, Tiffany Sneebros. Seasons of Singleness. Seasons of Singleness. Hey y'all, and welcome back to another episode of Seasons of Singleness, the podcast uncensored. Uncensored. I still feel like that was fucked up and wrong, but welcome back. Uh, so pretty much where we left off is like just talking about like giving you a real look at like where I was in relationship with a third party, right? Because it's two sides to every story, and then there's someone who was there, who also not necessarily lived it, but did experience it, right? So yeah, you got to hear from sis and everything else, which was great. We appreciate her and her time. Um, but nevertheless, like uh during that time period, I remember just really being not only just depressed, but really just being like, what the fuck? Like, I was tired of being on a hamster wheel. And I feel like a lot of people are on those same hamster wheels, like, but you stay because sometimes it's easier. Sometimes, you stay because of the emotional attachment. You stay because what do you have outside of this? As I stated before, like my relationship at one point was my identity. So it's like, okay, well, what the fuck am I going to do outside of this man? Like, who am I outside of this man? Right. And a lot of people who know me or who have come in contact with me, whatever, they know that I have a really big personality, or I can have a really big personality because sometimes I'll be quiet. Yeah. Um, but at the same time, who am I outside of this man used to come up a lot. And in my mind anyway, like my own mental bondage, like it was just like, okay, well, without this person, I don't have access to certain things, or I don't have the same type of luxuries. I have to now be very independent. Um, and I wasn't necessarily used to a lot of things at that time. But yeah, it was time. It was definitely time. And I had to move on. I had to move on. And in that, you know, um, it was a lot to do with me kind of losing myself in that way. Like there was an ongoing battle internally about like who I am, who I want to be, who am I outside of this, who am I in this, and what is it a true reflection of? Is it mimicking anything? Is it mimicking anything that I idolized or that I saw for myself? And if it wasn't, then what was the purpose? Right? And again, I'm not bashing or saying that this person did me so wrong. And I just couldn't be myself and I couldn't do X, Y, and Z. And it's like, no, I fully understand now, like that I am the reason. I have a good friend who says, if I'm not the problem, there is no solution. You know what I'm saying? Like, meaning I have the power to change my situation, point blank, period. And if I decide that that's what I'm going to do, then that's what I'm going to do. Like, if I decide that's not what I want to do, then I'm not doing that. So it's like you ultimately are the reason for a lot of the things that you go through. And that's a hard pill to swallow. A lot of us who suffer from or lack accountability, right? We often we will often be upset when someone kind of tells us about ourselves, or if we figure out a situation, it solely has to do with me and the outcomes that I bring to the table or whatever. The things that aren't happening or the things that are happening, like I am the reason for that. And don't get me wrong, there are some times where you are a victim. there are some times when you are something is happening to you, like you have no control over what is happening because we can't technically control other people or their actions. So I get that. But for situations that we can control and we decide to stay anyway, you are the reason. Let me be the first to tell you, you are the reason. And I had to like, that was some appeal that I had to swallow myself. So I'm not just saying it to you like just to be saying it. No, I'm saying it because it's real. Like, a lot of times we just don't want to accept it, and that's okay too. But there is freedom on the other side of acceptance. There is freedom on the other side of accountability. um you get to kind of walk into your own, like, you get to become, and that's about it. Like, I don't know how else to really put it. Like, it's literally, it takes no time for you to like really just own your shit. Okay, I lied. It does take time. It takes time, especially if you aren't accustomed to owning your shit. But it don't take no time. It don't take no time. Once you decide, like, yo, I don't want to do this shit no more, and I'm not doing this shit no more, everything that you say yes to, like, yes, I want to be a better version of myself. Yes, I want to be able to provide for myself outside of relationship. Yes, I want to be able to grow. Fucking ghetto. They see me recording.
3 hours later.
Yes, I want to be able to grow outside of this situation. Yes, I want to be able to grow myself. Yes, I want to be able to experience new things and live a certain type of lifestyle. So everything that you say yes to makes it easier for you to say no. No, I'm not sitting up with a man who has no intention for me. No, I'm not about to be laid up with somebody just because he said I was pretty. No, I'm not about to be um subjecting myself to bullshit because it comes in the form of a relation it comes in the form of a relationship. Fuck that. Fuck it. And I honestly say to you, like, I know a lot of times we get into these situations, right? Not necessarily situationships or whatever, but we get into these situations because we are either running from something, we're chasing something, right? And my ultimate goal for my next relationship, honestly, is that I am walking into this thing clear, free of the bullshit from the past, free of my own bullshit and everything that I come with. Um, yeah, I want to be free. I want to be free. And even keeping with that theme, like, I found myself crying all the time. I felt myself like really, really depressed and feeling like stuck. And again, like, not because of anything that the other person was doing, but more so because of um doing or saying physically, I want to say. Um but more so because I felt like I had nowhere else to go. Like, what do? I done disown my family. Well, not disown my family, but I done stopped fucking with my family. Can I go home? Um, what am I supposed to do? I got this job that I love, but it's not paying me shit. So I ain't got the means to like move around like I need to. I don't have the credit because I didn't necessarily work on those things. I was more so invested in making sure that the house was okay. That wasn't mine. Like, a house that ain't in my name was okay, and that the people that resided in it was okay too. That I didn't focus on the things that I needed to focus on to better myself. And that came with some shit. Came with some shit. But I'm telling you, like, as soon as I made the decision to hold myself accountable for those things, because again, nobody else put me in that situation but me. Nobody else stayed in that situation but me. And I had to make a decision. Like, it's either I'm going to deal with this shit or I ain't. And that's literally the gist of it. And that's what I want for people who are listening to this as well. Like when you feel like you can't or you're stuck or you can't move, you can. Clip the shit and keep it fucking pushing. Yes, grieve, do what you gotta do for your process and everything else that is healthy in those ways. But you got to go, sis. You cannot sit there. You cannot remain in those situations. You cannot remain in those situations just for the fuck of it. Just for the flattery, just for the recognition. It's not serving you. So yes, you have to move. Yes, you have to go. Yes, you have to be. Yes, you have yeah, like yes. Good God.
Can't say your S's and shit.
Yes, you have to grow. It's time out for all the bullshit. And it wasn't until I found myself like, yeah, I was talking to other people. I kind of, was feeling myself, whatever, whatever. I kind of once my physical started to change and my mind started to shift to the fact that I don't necessarily need this bullshit. I don't need it. Um, I started to change, right? Um, Started changing the way that I thought about myself, started changing the way that I felt about certain situations, and started being more vocal. And yeah, like after all of that, like once one thing decides, everything else kind of falls in line. So once you decide in your mind, like this is no longer the space that I plan on residing, like not in this fucked up era. I don't want to be here anymore. You, the rest of your body falls in line, which is crazy to realize. Like, but a lot of us, when you're in the middle of mess, like you don't necessarily know that that is a true thing because you haven't experienced it, you haven't felt it. You don't necessarily think that it's possible. So when it happens, it's like, oh shit, this is a thing, and it's showing up is. It's showing up is. Um, yeah, it was groundbreaking, honestly. I was just like, oh, okay, I don't necessarily have to do this. I can have a life outside of you. I do exist outside of you. I have my own relationships with people. The people is just rude as fuck. I have my own relationships outside of you with people that you've introduced me to, and yada yada yada, right? Because it's like you don't necessarily, when you the idea of breaking up with someone, or leaving a situation, you kind of like fall fond of whether or not they have kids. You fall fond of them. You fall fond of their family, their friends. If y'all go to church together, like those things kind of play a part in your decision making. But don't let that hold you in a space. If you know that something isn't necessarily working, if you've built the bonds and they're real bonds, they'll be there. They will be there. um yeah, I remember, honestly, like I'm moving and grooving in my own way, like doing what I need to do. I'm talking to other people, whatever, whatever. And granted, I should not have been because I was technically still in a relationship. And yeah, like again, we used to do the back and forth. We used to do the back and forth. I ain't trying to excuse my behavior, but yeah. We used to do the back and forth where someone cheats and then somebody else cheats and then somebody cheats and somebody else cheats and I'm gonna get my lick back. Oh, I ain't, whatever, whatever. We good 1 minute, we ain't. So yeah, a lot of that took place, but it was one particular time where it was just like, fuck it, like I'm outside. I'm a whole fucking hot commodity out here. Like, boy, fuck you.
I'm a bad bitch. You can't kill me.
And I was out, whatever. And I got caught one time. Like, it was in the middle of a snowstorm. Like, we living in a house together, and he went through my motherfucking phone. And what the old people say, don't go looking for something, because when you do, you're gonna find it. Okay, so he done found it. I was talking to this little boy. The guy was younger than me. I want to say 2 years younger than me, and he brought up this whole thing about like, oh, well, you talking to young niggas, whatever, whatever. And I'm like, calm down, my good sir. You wasn't talking to young bitches, like whatever. We got into this whole argument about it. Um, we kind of got into a tussle about it as well. And I was just like, okay, like here we are. Um, crazy shit. We I'm really confused as to why cars sound like that. I'm so fucking confused. We after the tussle or whatever, we talked shit through, but I realized like, yeah, this is just not where I want to be. And we tried to work through it. We tried, and it just didn't work out. It didn't. And I remember one time, we were in the middle of having sex, and I start crying. And I be on Twitter sometimes and people be talking about like how they be crying doing sex and shit, like meaning that it's really, really good that I'm in my feels about it. But that wasn't the case. I wasn't like present. I wasn't in the moment. And it's not to say that the sex of the other person that I was entertaining was better than his. It just like I think at that point I had really exhausted every fucking option, and I was just like, I can't do this. And that's how we broke up.